I'm also joined by Meera Shankar, the former ambassador of India to the United States of America. Ambassador Shankar, welcome to NDTV. You have seen Washington up close. Is this simply Trump's negotiating style, or is the relationship with India at a risk of a deeper rupture here?
Well, I would not write off the relationship just yet. There are many factors which bring the two countries together. It's just that for Trump, those other factors are not important. He does not take a strategic view of relationships. He takes a very transactional view of relationships. And for the moment, what is uppermost in his mind is the negotiation with Russia over Ukraine. He had promised his MAGA constituency and the country that he would have a ceasefire in Ukraine in 24 hours. That has not happened. He's finding Putin is a harder nut to crack than he had initially thought, and that the positions of both Russia and Ukraine on how the conflict should resolve are very wide apart indeed. So I think it's the frustration on that account that he is pressurizing India with tariffs on energy purchases from Russia, in the hope that somehow or the other, either India will stop purchasing, and therefore Russia will find itself with a reduced bank account to actually fund the war, or that somehow India will talk to Russia and Russia will be more amenable to negotiations. So whatever it is, for Trump at the moment, it's the end game in the Ukraine conflict, which is determining how he's treating the issue of energy purchases by India from Russia. The other tariffs, of course, are part of his longer, wider approach to putting tariffs on all countries. But at the moment, he's still discussing with China, which has, one of the largest trade surpluses with the US. India is something like the 10th largest trading partner. And our surplus has been in the region of $20 to $30 billion a year. This year, it's over 40 billion. But that's really peanuts compared to the kind of deficits that the US has with many other countries.
Ambassador Shankar, I also want to understand this outreach from countries like China, from countries like Brazil and Russia. How should New Delhi interpret this outreach? Should they interpret it as solidarity or as a subtle push to pull India into their orbit? Because in that very case, there is a risk that India might get alienated from the Western market.
Well, I think India has to play this quite coolly and carefully. I don't think it wants to join an anti-US bloc, if you will. It doesn't want to constitute an anti-US bloc. But at the same time, when the US, so blithely, completely tramples on India's sensitivities and also creates hurdles for its economic growth, India will also obviously discuss these issues with other countries who may be seeking a better balance in global forums and, more multilateral world, if you will. So I think that India will not seek a confrontation with the US, and nor should it, just buckle over. I think it has to be smart. It can continue discussing, and it should use its own strengths as well. Perhaps you don't retaliate immediately, but you can prepare a list of goods on which you could potentially retaliate, which can be published, and say that this depends on how talks go.
Yeah. Ambassador Shankar, and this is a very obvious question because India has had that position. Do you think India can realistically play both the sides, as in deepening the BRICS ties while also keeping the US on side? Or is there a choice? Is a choice inevitable for India?
I don't think so. I don't think for India it would be a good thing to choose either.
Yeah.
Because the world is far more complex. And as we've seen, relationships can turn depending on internal political developments in the great powers. I mean, the US-India relationship was on very solid ground. And yet, within a couple of months, it's come under so much pressure that, you do need to create space. You cannot afford, as a large developing country, which has multifarious interests, from development to security to peace to better balance in Asia to, ensuring that global forums better reflect the realities of the world of today and give more voice to developing countries. There are so many interests, and in some cases, your interests coincide with one country, and in other cases, they may coincide with other countries. And I think India cannot accept that it will not have the flexibility and the freedom to make its own choices. After all, what is the Ukraine war about?
Yeah.
The West has basically, because Putin was arguing for a long time with the West, that Ukrainian neutrality should be re-established and there should be no NATO membership for Ukraine, and that this should be legally binding. The West didn't agree, and they, in fact, espoused the principle that every country has a right to choose its own policies.
Yeah.
Well, doesn't that apply to India?
Well, it is an ever-changing situation, and we, Ambassador, we might just be having, Ambassador Shankar, we might just be having a very different conversation going forward in a couple of days from now.
I would also say that much will depend on how the meeting between Trump and Putin goes, how the negotiations of Ukraine proceed, as far as the energy sanctions are concerned. For the other sanctions, I think it's going to be a little tougher to deal with, but the energy sanctions really depend on how the negotiations with Russia on halting and ending the military conflict in Ukraine will go.
All right, Ambassador Shankar, thank you very much for sharing your views and speaking to NDTV.